Hello and welcome back to Solid, where we appreciate the football nerds, but we're all just concussion uncles at the end of the day. My name is Jake. Thank you guys very much for joining me. Today is Tuesday, July 28th. It is a cool 92 degrees outside with a heat index of 106. I did walk outside earlier today, and the bottom of my feet got sweaty. I was wearing slides, and I slipped through them. I blew one out. I blew the right one out, and I fell. There was nobody around that saw it. I'm just trying to be accountable, trying to be better. I can't get complacent with walking. So I'm having a go. I'm having a tough go. But let's talk football. There's training camps going on now, which is great. Well, I guess people are reporting today training camps and practices and stuff. For I think 30 out of 32 teams are gonna be starting tomorrow. But we're doing our preview still. We're going division by division. Today we're doing the AFC South. I'm doing two shows for each division. One is all of the changes, all of the moves that teams didn't make, all of the changes that they didn't make. One of them is the good side of those things, the positives. And then this one that we're doing today is the negatives. Because if you're a Colts fan, you don't give a shit what the Texans did good. And if you're a Colts fan, you care about what the Texans did bad and how everything's gonna more or less implode for them. But let's get into it. The way that we do this, we go down. I say we. It's a very royal we. The way I'm doing this is I'm going down the division standings from last year. So we're doing Jags, Texans, Colts, and Titans. First one up is the Jags, who were 13-4 last year. Lost in the wild card round of the playoffs. First big thing for them, and this I had this as a positive, but this is the other side of that for them. There was news this offseason that they were going to have Travis Hunter just be a one-way player. And then Liam Cohen did an interview, and he kind of laughed at that. He's like, "No, fuck that. He's a both-way player. He plays both ways." Man, I thought it was good when they said that he was just going to be a cornerback. And then now you're going to do two ways? That's dumb. That's a bad thing. So famously, Deion Sanders, most prolific, easily the best two-way player in the NFL history. He only had 120 targets as a wide receiver in his entire career. In his entire career, he had 120 total targets. He had just 60 catches, and 67 of those targets, all of that, 67, over half of the targets that he got was in 1996. And he was drafted in 1989. The man was, the dude was a cornerback. He was a cornerback who kind of went into being a wide receiver. He wasn't, they didn't draft him and be like, this guy's playing both ways. They didn't do that. He ended up doing that, and he's a Hall of Fame player. He could do that. Travis Hunter, if he can, good. That would be great. Maybe not year two. Even calling it year 1.5, because he got hurt halfway through last season. Trying to just force that is really dumb. Let the guy be awesome at one thing first. You guys traded up to get him in the 2025 draft. The Jags traded up to get him in the 2025 draft, and they didn't have a first-round pick this year because they did that. Let the guy be good at one spot first, man. Don't force it. Never force it. Just a general rule. A general rule in life, don't force it. You didn't think you're gonna watch or listen to this and be like, man, I'm not expecting to get some life advice. Let me give it. Don't force it. That's weird. That's a weird thing to do, and most of the time it's dumb. Again, Deion. It took him what, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96. It took him 8 seasons. It took him 7 seasons to get to a spot where he could demand not even a wide receiver, and I'm not a wide receiver one target share. I mean, that was honestly probably, I could look it up, but I would assume wide receiver 2 or 3 target share. Man, very dumb. just let it happen. If it happens, that's great. If it happens, that's bonus points. If it happens, you're playing with house money. If he can be a both-way player, dude, fuck yeah, man. That's great. And I get it. He did it when he won the Heisman, but don't just let it flow. If it comes to him, it comes to him. Just let him be a cornerback. He's going to be a great cornerback. You don't need to do that. You got their wide receiver room is Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers, and Parker Washington. I'll get to I think I got to that in the positives. I think Brian Thomas Jr. still a good ball player. Shit year last year, especially compared to his rookie season. This is a good wide receiver room. Jacoby Myers really tied he was the rug that tied the room together last year when they traded for him, and Parker Washington just came out of nowhere at the end of the season. Ended up being like the most exciting guy to watch. Hopefully they don't do a Travis Fulgham circa 2020 thing with him, but don't force Travis Hunter into this, man. That's all I'm trying to say. If they do that, buddy, you stupid idiot, Liam Cohen. Very dumb. Second thing that I think was bad for them. Maybe not bad. I think it's dumb. Yeah, I'll call it bad. They drafted, so like I said, they didn't have their first round pick. So their first pick came in the second round, and they were it was the 24th pick in the second round. So what is that? 56th overall. I think I'm doing math. Nate Borkshire, the tight end out of was that A&M? Yeah. That was a pretty big overdraft. If you're at a deficit for those premier draft picks, you got to make sure that you're doing the smart thing. And I mean, in a general sense, going with a consensus board is not wrong. You look at teams that shit the bed during the draft. The 49ers are a big one that do this. Teams that draft poorly go away from consensus more or less. And Nate Borkshire was consensus 169th pick. That's they used the 56th pick on him. And he didn't have a relative breakout season in college until last year, which was his 6th year in college. I get needing a blocking tight end, and he's cool with blocking. He's willing to block, which is that's half the battle with a tight end. He could be a better pass catcher. I could see valuing that, like getting a blocking tight end for cheap, but this just seems like a total mismanagement of resources. That's a smart guy. Did you hear me just say that? A total mismanagement of resources? God damn, I'm smart. That's good words. Good words from your boy. I don't know. I think it was dumb. I think that if you're hurting for draft picks, like I said, you got to make sure that you're using them well. And this just seemed like an absolute, maybe not an absolute, because I'm sure he'll end up being good, but it seemed like a ding dong move. They did have 3 third round picks, where they got Albert Regis, Emmanuel Pregnon, the guard, and Jalen Husky. So they did have more third. Obviously, 3 third round picks is more than normal. They did good with those, but using your first pick to get a guy who most smart people, the draftniks, where pretty much everybody's kind of agreeing that this guy's like way later. I don't know. Seems like a ding-dong move to me, you know? Okay, third thing that they're doing that I think is going to be bad for them. So we know that they let Travis Etienne go in free agency. He ends up signing with the Saints. So right now their running back room is Bashal Tutin. They got Chris Rodriguez in free agency, Chris Rodriguez Jr. in free agency, LaQuint Allen, and Amir Abdullah. I like Bashal Tutin as a fun ball player. I just don't think that's a running back room that you win with. You know, it seems like you would want talent in your running back room, especially last year. They did really well with running the ball. Maybe not really well. They did good. They were an above average running team. And a lot of that was Travis Etienne kind of maybe not making things out of nothing, but he was a good, strong runner to the outside. He did really good. I don't know if Bashal Tutin's a good pass blocker. I don't know if any of these guys are good pass blockers like Travis Etienne was. And I don't necessarily know what they could have done other than because I've been saying this all summer, all spring. Is it was a shit year for the running back market. If you needed a running back, buddy, good luck, hun. God bless your heart. You're fucked. And the Jags are kind of on the fucked side of things. There are still some guys out there. Let me pull up Over the Cap real quick to see exactly which guys that we have available. Free agency tracker, running backs is loading. Clicking on running backs for a third time. You're looking at Kareem Hunt is available. Nick Chubb is available. Raheem Mostert is available. Dare Gumbawale is available. Miles Sanders is available. There was just news of him working out with somebody. I can't remember who that was. Najee Harris is available, coming off of a Achilles. It's not great. There is stuff that they can do, but it's not great stuff. They will get those guys for cheap, so it's going to be more of a lottery ticket kind of a thing. It's just what they have right now is not what I would think anybody wants. That's not a good running back room, is what I'm going to say. That could backfire for them spectacularly, because this is turning into, especially to go and get a tight end who can block. With that side, with Nate Borkacher, I would think that you would hope that you have I would hope that you would be minding your P's and Q's and have a running back. Did I use that phrase? I've used that phrase all the time. I don't think anybody knows what it means. I don't edit this. If I did edit this, I would have edited that part out. The part where I talk to myself, I would edit that part out. But I don't know how to do that, and I don't really want to learn how to do that. Anyway, you guys get what I mean. It's a running game that I think is going to probably struggle. I think that is not a hot take, and it is more than fair. Going to the Texans. Texans ended last season with a 12-5 record. Made it to the divisional round, where they lost to the Broncos, I believe, or no, they lost to the Texans. Nope, they are the Texans. They lost to the Patriots in the divisional round, and everything was bad for C.J. Stroud. They're a good team, man. This is a good team. This is a good football team, and by that I mean their defense rocks, and their offense just is not good. They're trying to be better with rebuilding their offensive line, but the big thing that I think, one of the big things that I think they kind of bungled here was they extended Azeez Al-Shaair. He's the 9th highest paid linebacker. They paid him that kind of money. He's the 4th highest paid inside linebacker. He's a good ball player. He's 29 years old, and they have him through his age 31 season. And they paid him after a career season for him. I get that they need these guys, and they're in kind of when they got Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud in the 2023 draft, I believe is what it was. They were not ready for this rebuild to go this well this quickly. Because now they're kind of like they have this kind of success, and they have a window to a championship run, but unfortunately they don't have a lot of the young talent that you see a lot of teams aim for when they're making these championship runs. And that leads to getting guys and paying them through these post 30 seasons. You get what I mean? So that, yes, Azeez Al-Shaair is a really good linebacker. There were a lot of other good linebackers that were available, maybe not a lot. There was a handful of other good linebackers that are available. You want to make sure that you get a guy that's comfortable with you, that has shown that he can be successful. I think that's all really good. It's just, and this isn't I don't think this is going to be a problem for this year, but I think this is a potential problem for down the road, if that makes sense. So I wasn't super thrilled about the Azeez Al-Shaair thing. The second thing that they did, like I've been saying, is that they've been rebuilding their offensive line. I think that's a good thing. I don't necessarily know if this version of their offensive line is going to work, but they keep changing it up because it keeps sucking shit. It was good that C.J. Stroud offensive rookie of the year season. After that, it's just fallen not off a cliff, but into the Mariana Trench. It is just spiraling down. So they're trying to bail water and do better. Guys, they didn't get a high-end guard, and I would have thought that they would have tried to prioritize that, kind of making sure that they have the interior of that offensive line at least not a weak point. Isaac Seumalo was available. He ended up signing for $10 million. He's getting paid $10 million a year. David Edwards was available, signed for $15 million a year. Zion Johnson, he's might have been out of their price range. David Edwards might have been out of their price range. Zion Johnson was $16 million a year. Elgton Jenkins got paid $12 million a year. I think that's probably fair given the talent level that he has. He's the one that came from the Packers, but he can play every position on the offensive line. He's signed for $12 million a year. I think if you're the Texans, that's a kind of guy that you would want to have. They didn't get him. They settled on Wyatt Teller at $8 million a year. It just wouldn't be the move that I would have made. They signed Ed Ingram for $12.5 million. It's just, I don't know. They had a lot to work. A lot of things that they needed to fix there. Hopefully it's better. Hopefully it's better. A lot of these teams with these bad offensive lines, like the bad offensive line play, being I would say maybe not the three worst, but the three ones that come to mind as being egregiously bad were the Chargers because of injuries and talent, the Raiders because of talent, and then the Texans because of talent. Those are the three that really come to my mind. Maybe I'd have to look at numbers and see exactly what kinds of what teams were really sucking shit, or you guys get what I mean. The Texans were a bad offensive line, and it's easy to improve there. I just don't know if this is the level of improvement that they probably could have had. I feel like that's fair to say. The third thing that I don't like is that they kept Nick Caley as their offensive coordinator. So they had Bobby Slowick, that C.J. Stroud rookie of the year season, offensive rookie of the year season. Then he stuck around because he didn't want to take a head coaching job. He kind of bet on himself to do better, and that in 2024 he didn't. Shit fell off. Then they got rid of him. Went with Nick Caley. I think that offensive coordinators who a lot of the bad things that I'm gonna say with the AFC South is just general rules that I believe. I think that following these general rules is a better way to build a franchise. Guys who don't do a lot with much should get fired. You know, C.J. Stroud, we know that he can be good. Nico Collins, good. They've got. I guess Tank Dell was out. He just didn't. He didn't show me that he could do much without much. And that's what makes a good offensive coordinator. And I think if you're going to have a coach or a team that is coached by a defensive head coach, you need to make sure that your offensive coordinator is going to be able to do more. He does not do more. You know what I mean? And there was, again, a lot of offensive coordinators available this year, and they kept Nick Caley. And maybe, you know what? I don't know what I don't know, okay? Nobody knows what they don't know. And I don't know how Nick Caley does in that room. Maybe there was other things that went into keeping him. It just seems like if you got a guy, 21 teams are changed offensive coordinators this year. Sticking around with a guy who's not good, who's not great, I should say, is kind of weird. Offensive coordinators change. That's just the reality of the NFL. Having continuity there is just a bonus. It's not a necessity to having a good team. And they went with the continuity side, and I'm just not entirely sure that continuity is what's going to elevate this offense to a point where it can not lose games for how good this defense is. I feel like I summed that up pretty well. So that's the Texans. For the Colts ended last year 8-9. They went into they won a game against Atlanta in Europe before the bye. They were 8-2 at that point. Got out of the bye, lost 7 straight games. Total shit can. It didn't help that Daniel Jones was playing on a broken leg and then popped his Achilles while playing on that broken leg, with the most predictable thing that you could imagine. For them, the big thing, and this is another one of my blanket rules, they didn't fire Shane Steichen or Chris Ballard. My blanket rule is that if a guy is on thin ice, they should be gone. You don't let a guy get to thin ice, because that's when they start making decisions to save themselves. You look at Brian Daboll with Jackson Dart last year. Brian Daboll was on thin ice, and then Brian Daboll's like, hey, Jackson Dart, actually, you're going to run and probably fucking die a bunch. And that's exactly what happened, and he got concussed a billion times, and Brian Daboll ended up getting fired. It's like, you kept the guy on thin ice, and you got rid of him anyway. It's just weird with Shane Steichen. Okay, Chris Ballard should be gone. Chris Ballard's been with the team for 10 years, hasn't made the playoffs since 2020. He should be gone. Absolutely. It seems like a Duke Johnson thing with the Bengals, where he's been their GM since 1999. The Bengals have had their GM since 1999. And it seems like, obviously, Chris Ballard being around for 10 years is not the same thing. It's about 16 years less than that. But he's not doing anything for you. The trade for Carson Wentz ended up being an absolute fucking dud. He's made bad decisions left and right. The trade for Sauce Gardner, while I think it was good at the time, has turned out to be bad. He should be gone. The Shane Steichen thing is the more the more difficult, is that the right word for it, thing to me. In his 3 seasons with the team, so in 2021 he was the Eagles offensive coordinator, ended up taking over play calling. About halfway through the season, Jonathan Gannon said that it was his decision, or he was the one who told Nick Sirianni that that Shane should take over, and Jonathan Gannon's a rat. That didn't actually happen. Anyway, Shane Steichen takes over play calling in 2021. Offense starts doing better. Go to 2022. They get A.J. Brown. Passing game turns into goddamn just Cuban Missile Christ. Not even, no, because they didn't actually shoot missiles there. It turns into Terminator Judgment Day. We're just missiles everywhere, just explosives, and everybody's dying. That offense was awesome. They go to the Super Bowl, lose the Super Bowl. Shane Steichen takes a job with the Colts. He's gone 9-8, 8-9, 8-9. So that is under 500. That's 25-26, and he's never been to the postseason. I think he's a good play caller. I think he's a really good play caller. He's gotten fucked by Anthony Richardson not working out, and then they moved away from him. Not moved away. They were like, yeah, no, Daniel Jones is getting the starting quarterback job last year. They said that, and it's like, you guys are really going to pull the plug on Anthony Richardson. Why the fuck did you draft him then? You guys knew that this cat didn't have any real playing experience, like any prolonged amount of QB1 experience while he's in college. You knew that when you drafted the guy, and then when it doesn't work out, you're like, yeah, fuck, what are you going to do? It's like, well, it's your first round pick, stupid. Anyway, they moved on from him, and it's just, I can't separate Shane Steichen's decision-making abilities from his abilities as a coach. And if he is on thin ice, which I believe that he should be and probably is, I think you got to let him go. I think he ends up getting hired by somebody else, but I think that it was a bad decision to keep these guys around. I think it was a bad decision. Especially Jonathan Taylor's a really good running back. Are you going to run him into the ground? Daniel Jones, what are you going to ask this guy to do when he's clear? But I can't say definitively yet. I have to imagine, as a fellow human being, that he's not going to be at 100% after his fucking Achilles got popped in December. I think it was like week 14 he popped his Achilles. I know he's cleared to practice and everything like that. We'll see. I don't know. I just think that when the franchise is in this level where they don't have a first round pick, I think that I think that they probably should have just wiped the board clean and made some decisions and got new people in there to kind of rebuild. It's tough. It's a tough one, but I think it was a mistake that they didn't do that, purely because it goes against my blanket rule. On top of that, The second thing, they didn't make any offensive coaching staff changes. It's still Jim Bob Cooter and Lou Anarumo. They're I guess on defense they their defensive line coach they changed from Marion Hobby to Charlie Partridge. Whatever that, if that means anything to you, then cool. If it doesn't, I don't blame you. That's it. This wasn't a team. They ended the season in an absolute downward spiral. That'll be the title of this one, a downward spiral. They ended the season in a downward spiral, and that you don't bring your coaching staff back after that. You make sweeping changes. If you're not going to fire the GM and head coach, make changes, man. You can't just run it back. You can't be like, remember the first 10 weeks? That was pretty sick. Remember that? You don't do that. You got to look and be like, some people got to go. People got to go. I don't necessarily know if that's a Lou Anarumo thing. He's kind of he had the one really good, I say, he shut down Patrick Mahomes in a AFC Championship game with the Bengals in 2021. I think Mahomes might have been concussed during that game. I don't know. It just seemed you guys had to change more. You needed the offensive coaching staff. You needed new eyes. You can't. This is not the Colts did not end their season on a stage where you should be saying, let's get him next year. Let's get him next year. Like when the Lions they lost in the NFC Championship game in 2023, and Dane Campbell did that whole thing. He's like, it's hard to make it here. I don't know if we're going to do this again. And then they were good the year after that because they had the coaching staff kind of came back. Like Ben Johnson stuck around, like Aaron Glenn stuck around. Everybody like kind of stuck around, and it was like, yeah, that's a team, especially a team that has had such bad shit luck as the Lions. You get that good vibe going. You're like, yeah, hey guys, let's run it back. Let's give it another shot, and they did, and it was good. It wasn't as good, but it was still good. And in 2024, they ended up being in the number 1 seed and lost to the Commanders, which has got to be a massive kick in the dick. But that's the kind of vibes where you're like, let's run it back. The Colts are not a run it back. The Colts are not a run it back team. The Colts are let's change let's tinker. They didn't tinker, man. They didn't tinker at all. The third thing was the Alec Pierce extension. It's kind of more of a thing now because he's starting the offseason on the Colts pup. The dude had surgery in March after he signed his big old extension. They signed him on March 12th is when it went official. He had surgery after that. He's had like PRP, which is some kind of injection type. I'm not a scientist. You're going to find that hard to believe. I do know a lot about injuries as a very injured person. I'm not entirely sure what PRP is, but it's like some kind of injection thing that helps a lot of guys. That ended up not working for, ended up working for him. They're paying him $28.5 million a year, and I think it's good that they paid him because he's one of the better deep threats in the NFL, and paying him is a good thing, but it feels funny, it just doesn't feel good for a guy to have surgery after he did a treatment that didn't work, and then you sign him after all of that, and then for him to go into the season after a summer off and they didn't do the playoffs. Like it seems so he's got like the normal. He doesn't have the shortened good team off season. He had a full off season, and he's going into the season hurt. It just doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? And very good chance that I'm wrong. He comes into the season, ends up being Daniel Jones's guy, and they has 100 catches for maybe not 100, has 90 catches for 1,300 yards. Very good chance that he does that. But this just feels funny, doesn't it? It does. You're not answering me. Doesn't it? Say yes. Thank you for agreeing with me. Okay, so that's the Colts. For the Titans. Titans ended This season, they were one of the three win teams, 3-14. Garbage pail. They had Brian Callahan was their head coach. He didn't understand the rules to football. Ended up getting fired, and I can't remember who their interim head coach was. I feel do normal people remember interim head coaches? Only interim head coach that really stands out to me. I guess there's two. There's man, I'm forgetting his first name. Pierce for the Raiders after they fired Josh McDaniel. Antonio Pierce. That was a good what's it called? A good interim head coach, but that's because of like how much everybody hated Josh McDaniel. And how much of a dipshit he was. So that one kind of stands out for that reason. And then also Jeff Saturday. That was weird. Remember when the Colts fired Frank Reich and then Jeff Saturday was their interim head coach? That was weird, wasn't it? That was crazy. So I don't remember my point is I don't remember who the Titans interim head coach was. And I don't really care to. First big thing that I think that is going to go wrong for them, really went with Robert Saleh. I know nobody has success with the Jets. If you're a head coach for the Jets, you don't have success. That's another blanket rule. But really, why do the Titans think that this is the route that they should go? It's weird that that's the way that they decided to go with their head coaching thing. Like you went in 2026, you went with a defensive guy. You better be a really fucking good defensive coach in order to be a head coach. If not, you're going to be in a world of hurt, man. It just doesn't seem. Robert Saleh has had good defenses with San Francisco. Nobody's denying that. He got fired from the Jets and he went and did a rehab year in San Fran and he gets rehired back to the Titans. Cool. But I just don't trust the guy, I just don't trust the guy to be able to be the head coach of a team, especially after watching the Jets Hard Knocks, where he was just like such a fucking dweeb about Aaron Rodgers, like, hey, we're getting the big man's coming in the house. The big man's coming to the building today. And he's just like gushing over, there's puddles underneath of him as he's like looking at Aaron Rodgers. It's like, this guy, he's not, football guy, but he's just ahead. I just don't, I would let other teams hire Robert Saleh as their head coach. I'd be like, hey, you know what? You want Robert Saleh? Take him. I just don't see the vision. I just don't see the vision with Robert Saleh. And then like it wasn't his first thing that he did, but I thought it was very funny. This was in the spring. He was doing like not his introductory press conference, but as a press conference after one of the training camp things. And people are asking him about like stuff that like he's changed in the building. He's like, I haven't really changed a whole lot, which is like, you probably should. But then somebody like dug in a little bit more and they asked him like, have you changed anything about like the kitchen or anything like that? And he goes, this is a quote. One of the first things I think we did here was get rid of all the seed oils in the building, which I think the players appreciate. I don't think they give a fuck, bud. I don't think they give a shit. Also, seed oils is very much a internet like influencer thing. Like no seed oils is a internet influencer. I'm not sure that that's I don't know if I would have prioritized that as the nutrition side of things. Especially since seed oils, the idea with this, man, I just was talking about how I don't know what PRP is, but I can tell you about seed oils. Wife's a dietitian, and I have had a decent amount of education in one of my 4 half degrees that I have. 4 3/4 degrees that I have was in nutrition based in that world. So I'm not a professional, but I know enough about it. Seed oils are in processed foods, and having less processed foods is probably a good thing. I think that's a good. I think the idea there is good. But for this kind of a thing, it's more about that's what you're using to cook. Canola oil is a branding thing. Canola oil actually comes from the rape seed, RAPE seed. They changed it to canola oil because, hey, you're going to find this hard to believe. Canola oil actually is a better name marketing-wise than rapeseed oil. So good move for them. You normally use that to cook. You don't infuse that or you make that like a big time ingredient inside of cooked foods. I would assume. I would hope in a NFL building. Although what is it? The Uncrustables are a huge thing in locker rooms and in NFL buildings and training camp and everything like that. That's just about as goddamn process as you're going to get there, Hoss. In the American Heart Association, they had an article about the seed oils. I shouldn't be getting into this much. The American Heart Association, I wrote a whole thing about this. If you want to read about this on Fansided, I did a whole thing talking about some of how training camp went with all the new head coaches. So I did a little bit of research on this and writing on this. American Heart Association said, quote, that is a flawed process in a flawed thought in numerous ways. So anyway, Robert Saleh, you're a ding-dong. Other thing that I think went poorly is, or could go poorly, will go poorly, is so that they did hire Brian Daboll. I think that's a good idea. He has turned Josh Allen into a. It's kind of weird because was Josh Allen always Josh Allen, or did Brian Daboll turn Josh Allen into Josh Allen? I kind of think the latter. It's very easy to be like, yeah, he had success with Josh Allen. Who everybody could. It's like, yes, but Josh Allen was not successful his rookie season and then became Josh Allen. So he did grow. And Brian Daboll was, I believe, a big part of that. So you want Brian Daboll, the brain. You don't want if you're bringing in Brian Daboll, you want Brian Daboll to bring his brain. You don't want Brian Daboll to bring his guys with him. And Brian Daboll did bring his guys with him. He brought Cordell Flott, corner, Daniel Bellinger, tight end, Wan'Dale Robinson. They signed him for $17.5 million as a. Listen, he's a good possession receiver. I'll give him that. Austin Schlottman's the center. That's a lot of New York. You're bringing a lot of Giants. You're bringing a lot of Giants to Tennessee, and I just don't. I don't know if I want Brian Daboll to be comfortable like that. I think if I'm the Titans, I'm going to be like, hey Brian, if you can do stuff with them, you can do stuff with what we got here, or you can do stuff with fucking anybody else other than your guys. I think that they brought too much. I feel like that's realistic. They also, Robert Saleh, the third thing is their defensive coordinator is Gus Bradley. Gus Bradley has been a head coach or a defensive coordinator in the NFL for 16 seasons. 4 of those seasons, he had a top 10 defense. Very good. He had a bottom 10 defense 11 times, and then what is that? 2 seasons, one season where he was kind of like in the middle, is like 14 or something like that. He's hanging his hat a lot on the him being the DC in Seattle during the Legion of Boom. He's hanging his hat a lot on that. So he was with Seattle from 2009 to 12. He was the head coach in Jacksonville from 13 to 16. He was the DC with the Chargers from 17 to 20. He was with the Raiders in 21, and then he was the DC in Indianapolis from 22 to 24, and then he just spent a year in San Francisco with Robert Saleh. So Robert Saleh brought him with. The good years that he had were 2011 and 2012, Legion of Boom with Seattle, 2017 with the Chargers, and 2018 with the Chargers. So those are his 4 good seasons. Everything else has just been, not good and dog shit. He's really, really kind of, and maybe, again, I think Robert Saleh's brains should be brought in decision-making, should be questioned. He's just really not the DC that I would want to bring with me, especially as a defensive coach. So Robert Saleh is going to be the one that's going to be calling the defensive plays. There is still stuff that non-play calling coordinators do. They help with the game planning and stuff like that. They do everything but actually call the plays. So they do. It is still an important job. It's just different because you think of, and probably correctly, the person who's talking to the people on the field as the guy who's the most important. Now, communicating to a green dot on defense is a little bit, I would assume, and I think reasonable to say, less intricate than calling plays on offense and being the guy that's in the quarterback's ear. It still is important. If you're talking about communicating, a coach communicating with the person calling the play on the field, it's very fair to say that the person that's in the quarterback's ear needs to be a much better communicator than the person that's in the green dot's ear. And maybe, and Gus Bradley's not going to be that guy, so he's got to be able to bring a lot more to the table. My point is, the guy's got good history. It's just been it's been a long time ago, and it's few and far between. I think that bringing him with seems bad. It seems like the brains behind Tennessee are not great. Seems like the brains are not great. I think that's it, right? I did all 4 teams. For the Jags is the Travis Hunter shit, drafting Nate Borkature, overdrafting Nate Borkature. Their running back room is not great. The Texans, I don't love the Azeez Al-Shaair signing, but that's more of a future problem. They didn't get a high-end guard, and Nick Caley is still there. Nick Caley is still their offensive coordinator for the Colts. They didn't fire head coach or GM. They didn't change anything on offense, only changed one guy on defense. And the Alec Pierce signing feels weird right now. For the Titans, it's Robert Saleh. I don't like it. Brian Dable brought too much New York with him, and Gus Bradley, I think, is a dud. That's it. That's the NFC South. I think everything is going to be shit, and it's going to be a downward spiral. Thank you guys very much for watching or listening, whichever way you do it. Next up is going to be, let's do the NFC East. The NFC East, I might do, that's going to be a longer one because I'm going to do a lot. I got a lot of thoughts on the NFC East. Specifically, I mean, if you're not paying attention to what the Eagles have been doing this offseason, it's going to be a lot. But that's what I'm going to do next is the NFC East. I'm going to do the positives with them. Again, thank you guys for watching. This has been solid. I will catch you later. My name's Jake. Bye.